I'm sorry, cannabis, they call it cannabis management. And they proceeded, and that office will be the one that's actually responsible for developing whatever ordinance the county ends up with. They spent the summer going around the county in various areas holding what they called listening sessions. They invited the public to come and they would put out questions to the public. What do you want to see in terms of where these places could go? What hours do you think they should be able to operate? How far do they have to be from the school? How far do they have to be from the park? All kinds of questions like that they would ask, and people could give their answers back. They held one here on August 12th. We did not hold a coordinated council meeting in August. We were scheduled to have our meeting on the 14th. They were holding theirs on the 12th. We thought those two meetings were too close together to ask people to come out twice in 3 days, so we canceled our meeting to give people the opportunity to go to the August 12th one. And but we still had we had a good turnout. We had about 70 or 80 people were in this room. They had, I think, 7 tables set up. Each table would seat 8 to 10 people. And then there were those were all full, and there were maybe 10 to 15 people in chairs sitting in the back of the room that didn't have seats. So what you did at that meeting, you went from one table to the next. Each table was focused on a particular type of question they were asking. So you went to those. What they didn't emphasize at all in that meeting was the fact that it is possible for our community to set its own rates, even though we're not the, go to the next slide. Even though we're not a city, and we're not a county, we do have a community standards district. It's possible for, through that, it may be possible for us to determine our own fate in this community. So what I did is I researched the ordinances of the cities in our vicinity to see what they were doing. Are they going to allow legalization? How are they going to control it? How are they going to license? I looked at Walnut, Industry, Diamond Bar, and La Puente. And all of those have developed ordinances. Next slide. La Puente developed Ordinance 17-946. If you read it, it's ordinance of the City Council prohibiting the cultivation, processing, manufacture, laboratory testing, labeling, storing, wholesale and retail distribution of cannabis in the city, and permitting the Planning Commission to adopt regulations for the personal cultivation in private residence. So they're basically disallowing or prohibiting all commercial use. And it looks like, with that last sentence, they're going to have their Planning Commission regulate the growth in individual residents, maybe by licensing it. Okay, so they'll know where it's being grown. So if there's a problem, they have some idea of who might be selling it. It said that the state law allows individuals to possess 6 plants in their own personal residence for personal use. They can't grow that and sell it. If they have a medical condition where they need the marijuana, if their doctor is recommending, maybe somebody with cancer that's a terminal phase of cancer, having a lot of pain, maybe a legitimate use. They use marijuana instead of an opiate drug. So there are some legitimate uses for it. So they intend, they're not going to block that, but they want to have it at least licensed so they know who's using and who's not. The next slide, please. Oh, you already got it. Okay. Oh, go back. Okay, then I looked at, I think you went past 2. I think, there we go. City of Industry. This kind of surprised me. The City of Industry is doing basically the same thing. This is a press release they issued just a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, August 24th. City of Industry votes to prohibit marijuana in city zones. Press release reads, not ready yet, go back. City of Industry City Council unanimously approved the second and final reading of an ordinance to prohibit marijuana in the city. This prohibition of cannabis includes all actions associated with the cultivation, distribution, including the manufacturing, laboratory testing, labeling, storing, and distribution to wholesale or retail. Next slide. Then they went on. I'm not just picking out parts of these ordinances. They're all really long ones, so I picked out in essence, the meat of them. They went on to tell why they're doing this. There are many secondary, go on to state there are many negative secondary effects of marijuana processing and distribution. Offensive odors tend to promote illegal sales to kids, promote trespassing if somebody's growing it out in their backyard. Kids are going to jump over the fence and grab it. Theft, robberies, marijuana businesses are still prohibited federally. And banks can get in big trouble if they're accepting cash monies from these businesses that are selling marijuana. So they have to keep their money in cash. So it really promotes robberies and break-ins. And then the next one there, manufacturing can lead to significant risks of explosion. Major burn treatment centers and hospitals in Northern California reported in 2015 that nearly 10% of their severe burn cases were attributed to butane hash oil explosions. These cases amount to more burn cases than from car accidents and house fires combined. Northern California is way ahead of us in terms of use of marijuana. And growing wild, there's a lot of areas where out in the national forests and stuff, where it gets growing and people they're just not able to control it. So there's been heavy use up there for many, many years. A lot of detrimental effects from it. Okay, so then I went on to look to see what the city of Walnut is doing in terms of marijuana policy. And there's 17D-1 is their policy, started their policy, and it gives the purpose and intent of the policy. City Council finds the regulations of marijuana necessary for the preservation, protection of public health, safety, and welfare for the city and the community. Next sentence is important. The City Council's regulation of such activities is within the authority conferred upon city councils through state law. That's confirming that cities can set their own policies on this. And the intent of the chapter is to prohibit commercial activities and personal cultivation of marijuana, whether medical or recreational in nature, to the maximum extent allowed under state law. Go on to the next slide. This is the 17D3 enunciates which activities are prohibited. Outdoor marijuana cultivation is prohibited. Indoor marijuana cultivation is prohibited except indoors within the private residence or an accessory structure to a private residence, and for which such cultivation is limited to no more than the marijuana plants in the maximum number of plants allowed under California law. That's 6 plants. The bill that actually was passed allowed 6 plants in a residence for personal use. So they can't prohibit that. That's allowed under state law. Prohibit medical marijuana activity. Now this I should explain. There's a whole big section under here. I cut most of it out. They're not prohibiting medical marijuana use by an individual. What this section was doing was not allowing medical marijuana dispensaries or co-ops or growing the drug to sell or give away to someone else. They're not trying to prohibit the personal growth and use in that section. And then the last one, D, they've just outlined all commercial marijuana activities. So those things that were listed for the other cities, the cultivation, manufacture, processing, distribution, they're prohibiting all of that. And finally, we have the city of Diamond Bar. Diamond Bar developed their policies earlier, like in 2016. Theirs is very short. They're probably going to have to redo theirs to get it and more in conformance with the law. But they just have 2 parts there. Their prohibition is in section 8.26.050 of their code, It says marijuana businesses prohibited. So they prohibit any kind of dispensary, and under B, they say no person shall plant, cultivate, harvest, dry, or otherwise process in any manner marijuana or marijuana products outdoor. Next slide. So that brings us to us, Golden Heights. We're an unincorporated area. We're not a city, so the Fort Erie Council can't, on its own, adopt policies to prohibit or to allow or to license. We don't have that kind of authority. So the county does so. So we will be subject to whatever regulations the county decides to adopt with respect to the commercialization of cannabis or marijuana. However, we need to modify that sentence a little bit. We're an unincorporated area, but we're a defined unincorporated area. Golden Heights has a legal definition. We extend from the east side of the Royal Vista Golf Course to Azusa, from the Orange County line to the north of the Pomona Freeway. There's actually a map that defines what Golden Heights is. We have a community plan that defines the uses within those boundaries, and we have a community standards district. The community standards district are a little hard to understand. How many were here at any of our meetings a year ago when we were looking at the Living Suites ordinance? People. A year or so ago, the developers went to the county and they got the county to pass a new ordinance that would allow a living suites any place in the unincorporated areas in the county. We had meetings here on it. Our community didn't want to have living suites here. So we went to the Regional Planning Commission, told them we don't want these in our community, even though they're being approved for the rest of the county. So we were able to amend our community plan to prohibit it within the boundaries of our community. Okay? To do that, we had to meet with regional planning, develop a procedure for amending our community plan that had to be approved by regional planning, and then had to be approved by the board. So it's a two-step process. We can't just do it on our own. The county has to approve it all at every step in the thing. Well, we could do that, potentially with the marijuana. If we can get the county to go along, we could have procedures, policies similar to what these cities have done, or if you want it, we could have it looser than what they have. It all depends on what the community wants. For our coordinating council board, we talked about this. We think it will cause a lot of problems for the community to have this unlimited commercial use here, and we think it should be restricted. But we wanted to have this meeting tonight to see what the residents want. What do you folks feel about what we should have in terms of policies for Golden Heights? So I'm going to turn the floor open to raise your hand and let's hear what you think.
I kind of like the way La Fuente and all the others who posted indicated that they didn't want it. I don't think the majority of the residents would want it. I feel that there are outsiders who are looking to enhance their own businesses, who want to come in and do it, but I think we've got enough problems with other things. We don't need to deal with the side effects of having this in our community.
Thank you.
Well, I think if our neighboring city or they don't allow and we don't do something, we're going to be the center of marijuana and going to be of the East San Gabriel Valley. So I think we got to do something.
That was exactly more. We don't want to be the only ones here doing it, because otherwise it's all going to come here. Anyone else?
I agree with everything that's been said, and we're just discussing right now. If we are not as consistent with the, I'll call it the tightest organization or city around us, we're going to be a dumping ground for anything that isn't allowed in the other communities. They're going to come here. The other thing is if we're consistent with the communities around us, the sheriff's department and highway patrol, whoever's involved in law enforcement, will be able to consistently execute their laws across all the communities around us, including us.
I just want to point out one thing. Marijuana needs a lot of water. One plant needs 6 gallons of water a day. So you can imagine you have 1,000 plants, the marijuana, how much water you need. We don't have that natural resource to supply them. So we need no water if there's marijuana growing in our community.
My background, I'm a nurse, but I saw a lot of patients from marijuana, and almost a lot of people have marijuana addiction. Destroyed the whole life, family get a divorce, children get trouble, and even I asked the patients, why do you start this marijuana? They told me, no, I didn't attend to at the temple to get marijuana. I just tried to very curious, try to what is work, what is taste, why people are. So after 2 or 3 times, they get addiction. I personally think the marijuana destroyed some people's life, and also affect the family, affect the young children. Particularly in the school, I saw that I was living in Michigan. In the Michigan, the school, primary school, the policeman from the elementary school, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 5, everyone teach them how do you protect yourself when people pass the marijuana or what drugs to the people. So my personal thing, we shouldn't need the marijuana culture in the Roland High, not sell, for protect our community.
Thank you.
When this law was being voted on, I had the unfortunate or fortunate opportunity to speak to a convicted drug dealer. Now, mind you, he had just finished a 7-year stint, and he was about 45 years old. He'd been in and out of jail since his 20s. And I asked him, why do you think we should approve or disapprove marijuana being sold? And his comment was, which surprised me, but he said, marijuana is a stepping stone to each drug thereafter. He said, you should never have allowed this. Now, this was from a drug dealer that had been in and out of jail many, many times. And he wasn't just a drug dealer. He was the man, as he was called in his neighborhood.
Thank you. If you ask any police officer about this, they'll tell you the same thing. It's a stepping stone. Not everyone that tries it goes on to other drugs, but it's a stepping stone for a lot of young people.
Okay, I'm a Chinese doctor. Recently, I treatment a lot that's take marijuana patient. Marijuana destroy immune system. Yesterday afternoon, I treatment one patient, only 24 years old. This have a very high blood pressure and very always angry with his mom, and his mom cried and say, Dr. Chen, you can save my son. Okay, a lot of trouble. I treatment that's one patient, whole year that's mouth inside that's answer, whole mouth. Okay, that's an immune system. That's why in order to protection of the children, this young guy, we must be against the marijuana in the Roland Heights.
I agree with everything that has been said so far about selling or having any commercial marijuana, but we should allow the medical because I'm a nurse and I took care of cancer patients and they absolutely need it. There's no question about that. Addiction doesn't play a role at all in that part. So I think one of the cities allowed indoor, and I think that would be the best choice.
All of those cities allow indoor medical marijuana patients. None of them.
I very much agree with the neighbor cities as well as people present here in terms of just allowing the marijuana. But I have some question to get educated on the following issue. There's always supply and demand. We've been talking about supply. The demand side of it is kind of unclear. I think the gentleman thinks this is very dangerous stuff. It's sort of like carrying a gun around, probably worse in some way because chronic. And are we have ability to restrict so-called the demand issue, meaning who can use them, where can they use them, and when can they use them? And that is, I need to be educated on this supply issue. I mean demand issue, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'll tell you what my understanding of this law is. They can use it basically anywhere. The law permits the personal possession and use. Now there are limits on how much you can have. You can have the 10 plants in your home, but there's also how much you can carry around. I don't have those anymore. They use the stuff in many, but I don't think it's very large amounts. But the regulations can influence where you could use it. You could put a distance from schools. You could prevent it from being smoked in any place that cigarettes. I think all of those cities are prohibiting it, like in a restaurant, any place where cigarette smoking is prohibited. They can put that in the regulation. They can keep it away from parks. Any place where kids are liable to be, all of those you can influence with the regulation.
Yeah, I got a commenter in the back.
Sure.
Yes, I've been in this community for like 25 years. I've just been seeing my friend, two of my friends. They are both parents. In the past, they are drug dealer. That's why they put in jail for 25 years. So both of my two friends, they didn't grow up in a foster parents family. That's why it's so sad. Their family is broken. It's broken house. So that's why I don't like the selling the marijuana. But legally, right now, everything's changed. But it's so sad because concerning the profit of the huge profit, So I just don't want to see so many broken family again. And it's been so many times I've been in a court for jury duty, and seeing two trials and seeing people that I don't know how to say it, but it's sad seeing that the family become like that and put the young children in the foster parents. That's why I dislike it. Thank you.
All right. So I've heard a lot of what I consider kind of crazy talk here. This guy says a plant takes 6 gallons of water a day. Are you kidding me? I think kelp is the only thing that will grow at 6 gallons of water a day. That's in the ocean. Okay, so the other point I want to make is we talk about all these drug dealers who are in prison and all that kind of stuff, and these are bad people. It's because it's driven underground. I thought part of the point of legalizing it would be to make it a normal business type of a deal so we don't have these killer drug dealers running around. I think that people who need it for medical use should be able to get it in their local community. just like people who would like to have it for recreational use. I think that we ought to tax the heck out of it, make it expensive for people to have a business for it, get a lot of tax income. We can provide services for our community. I think that's my opinion.
Hi, if we're the only city in the area that provides marijuana, another thing to think about is what about your real estate property value? I predict we'll probably drop about 25% or so. That would really reduce the city revenue. At the same time, there will be certainly your value of your house will be decreased since no one wants to move over here because of marijuana. So.
Hey, good evening. My name is Charles Bjornberg, and I was invited to come here. And I'm a lawyer. I handle a lot of cases involving the student, young people's problems, and marijuana is one of those problems. And I hope the California law that legalizes marijuana can be overturned. I vote against it. So I do hope between now and then, until the law, is going to be overturned by the people, and people need to act to protect our family, protect our children, because as somebody here say that, it's a stepping stone. So I used to live in near the Malibu area, and one of the neighbor smoking marijuana. He literally had a mental problem all his life. He suffered from the syndrome that he doesn't want to talk with any people, and literally mentally disabled. And marijuana really hurts the young people more than adults. And it's once you legalize, it's hard to control and how to prevent it from being abused. I do recommend, if it does have some medical use and medical effect, limited, licensed, and you issue the permits to these people who can control their activity. Gotta be far away from the school, from the family, from any ordinary people's reach. It should be restricted area, far away from the normal residents, and should be legalized. Thank you.
Right now, kids can get a hold of whatever they want. And if we make it easy for them, having it throughout the community, it's not like a bottle of beer or a can of beer or a bottle of whiskey that they can't hide. A little bag of marijuana they can stick anywhere. And you can't monitor it very well in your schools. I'm concerned because I'm on the school board, and I'm worried for our kids. This will be the detriment of a lot of kids in our community, and we don't want that to happen. I remember the day after, it was a day or two after the legal sales in Nevada, Las Vegas, they ran out of drug in 2 days. They ran out of marijuana. So where people can get it, they're gonna flock there and they're gonna buy it, so.
I just have a quick comment to make. So I wanted to let the community know, let's go forward with what's happening now. There's 27 states. Over half of the United States is already legal for medical marijuana. In recreation, there's 7. We need to figure out what's best to regulate this instead of calling it a drug, because medical use in California has been there for 20 years. There's evidence on cancer.gov that it does reduce tumor, cancer, Alzheimer's, epilepsy for children. So medically wise, there is people who actually suffers that needs them. Now, when we look at the community around us, that's not allowing cannabis to grow there. We need to figure out what our community needs to do to further regulate the activities to help any illegal activity that could happen. Here, by what that gentleman says, we are trying to regulate and protect our community, but we need to realize 2017, half of the US has already legalized it. It's here to stay. So our point here is not to mislead the public calling it a drug. We need to enforce it by better regulations that we all can control. And then there are funding that can go into school. Look at the results in Colorado. They raise so much money for the schools and community development in a highly regulated way. However, the state government haven't figured out anything about the regulation yet. So far, the banking, they haven't done anything yet. They have only written the tax law. So it's now up to our cities to figure out how do we protect the value of our community, the surrounding community, by regulating something that the state has already approved. Thank you.
How about the prohibited alcohol? And make the mafia make money from it.
Hello everyone.
We have a lot of machines to
counselor. I heard that gentleman say, but a couple months before, I just attended a funeral as a young man because of marijuana died. I'm telling you the fact that marijuana will kill people. I'm not joking. When you talk about raising the money for the school, sounds beautiful, but indeed, think about it. It's something about life. One life costs all. So therefore, I fully support to ban all of it and anything involved with marijuana. Thank you.
My name is Matthew Chen. I'm working in Royal Unified School District. I'm school bus driver. I also live in the city of Walnut. I am father, grandfather as well. We like our community health for our next generations. So very clear, no exception. We want this area, this community healthy. So white is white, black is black. No gray area. Do you agree that? Yes. Thank you.
I, for one, don't want to see a cannabis shop anywhere in Roland Heights. And marijuana is a drug, just like when you get cancer pills or something else. Now, from a medical standpoint, if they've already been getting it for years, and that can be controlled, but I don't want to see anything, because if people are allowed to grow it at home, even if it's 2 or 3 plants, but everybody has children. And if you're telling me the kids aren't going to get their hands on it, you're out of your ever-loving mind. Or you're not thinking about it. And you know, once we allow it here, first of all, we're going to be the dumping ground for all of those people who want it. And secondly, you know, it's going to be just crazy. I don't want to see a cannabis shop anywhere in Roland Heights at all. Yes. I want to see the same.
I was an OBGYN in China, so I work in the Kaiser as a respiratory therapist. I saw the people, the mom use marijuana to infect the baby. When the baby was born, the baby is crazy, crying, and you know, so bad. We have used the medication to weaning the baby from the marijuana, the drug. So I very don't want have some people grows the marijuana. Maybe some kids, they are smaller, they don't know. They are interested, they use. This is very bad, affect us.
Okay, when it's all said and done, nobody likes it. So I want to offer my help to Mr. and Mrs. Evan Kemp, who are really working hard for this community. So whatever you need, typing, computer, I know how to work my computer. I will help you set it up. And I
one of the things that a gentleman back here that's expressed a desire to possibly have some places here, one of the huge problems that they are having where they have enacted and allowing these centers in is that the U.S. government doesn't allow you to put the money in the bank. So not only do you distributing your marijuana to other people, you now have a huge problem regarding robberies, burglaries, thefts, etc. So it's not just the marijuana you have to think about. It's the safety of other people around it. And there's a lot of money. I mean, this is the #1 business if we let it happen in all of the communities. It will bring in lots of money, like you say in Colorado, and they're doing all kinds of things. But what message would be sending to our children that it's okay?
Just a second, what she said, the state has estimated that they will collect in excess of $1 billion a year off of the sales tax of this. So that tells you how much they expect to be sold. And this lady has her hand up, has had it up. So you're after that.
I agree with the lady that's talking about everyone is standing around the shop here. All the city around us, they have ordinance against that. So we allowed it. Who are we attracting to come here? What kind of value do we need? We don't need that kind of value for our school, for our children. Right.
I think we've all seen that TV commercial with the secondary smoke and, you know, it floats around and affects other people. Well, I kind of want my personal space, even out in public, in restaurants, bars, whatever designation, I would like that to be smoke-free. And there are also health effects, lungs, whatever, that could incur tremendous medical expenses. You know, if cigarettes are bad for your lungs, I assume marijuana is even worse, much less secondary smoke on babies, children, etc. So I'm really against this idea.
And we got one more comment in the back that wants to talk.
I don't want to be traveling around the Roland Heights with my parents, and then like just driving around the street and seeing a marijuana store like right there. I don't want to just like feel scared and just like ask my parents to drive faster, or if I'm walking to walk faster. And every night, when I get home, I do feel a bit scared because there are some crazy people out there. But then if a marijuana shop is open, then more crazy people are out there. I'm going to feel even more scared. And I don't know if I'm even going to like live in Roland Heights anymore. I might just move to somewhere where marijuana isn't even allowed.
We're starting to thin out a little bit with people here, but I want to thank everybody coming for tonight. We'll have a few more minutes, but before it thins out any further, I want to thank everyone who came tonight, especially if it's your first time. We'd like to see you back again. I think the board has a good feel that you want us to progress and to try to get similar. So it will take more than one meeting like this. Okay, we'll have to, you know, if we move ahead, if the county, maybe the county will come back and have regulations just like these other cities. Hopefully they'll do that. But we wanted to have this so we would start having the feel of the community ahead of time in case they don't. So appreciate everybody coming out, and it's easy to get up and voice your concerns on something this controversial, so we really appreciate it. There were a few more people that wanted to speak. Somebody had a hand up back there. Anybody else? Want to speak? No? No.
We come here just really concerned about this this issue. I'm really glad to hear you say that as a Roland Heights corporate county, under county, and you mentioned we have waived just like the other cities can regulate. So come here, want to support.
Please keep the noise down so we can hear him. Go ahead.
I just want to say that we really appreciate that you give us information that in Royal High we have a way to set up those kind of regulations. And so I come here to support it. And I'm really encouraged, and really appreciate it that people can perceive this regulation in Royal High. So we come here to support it, and hopefully we see that successful, just like the other cities.
Just know that you can't do it without the community support. What makes it possible for us to amend our CSD, ban something like this, or any other issue, is that we have to have the community support. If it's just the coordinating council board telling the county we want this, they won't listen to us. If they know the community, what the community wants, they will usually listen. And so we by meetings like this. We have meetings like this, 100, 200 people show up, voice their concerns, and they now, it is the community wants it. It's not just the board of the coordinating council. So it is important for you to join. It's not very expensive to join, only $12 a year a person. Okay, the more people that we have that belong to the coordinating council, the bigger our email list. And when we have an issue like this, we get the word out to the community. We're not a formal organization. It's an informal group that started this 20 years ago. And we have these community meetings. It's just all volunteers. So we can only get something done to the extent we have the community support behind us. So if you didn't give us your email address, please be sure to do that before you leave. And we'll keep you on the list so when something comes up that you're interested in, we'll let you know. I'm sure this issue will come up again.
How soon can we get done? How soon?
Well, he's asking how soon before we can get something done. Well, we have to wait to see what the county's coming up with grants. Okay? They told us they would keep us informed of what they're doing before they do it.
Yeah.
So if it looks like they're going to legalize it all